everybody, welcome to this week's demonstration here on the Beauty of Pastel. Today I am playing a little bit with some acrylic ink, one of my favorite ways to create some really nice effects in the underpainting. Let's get started. Hey everybody, I'm so excited to be using this palette to paint this beautiful painting with acrylic inks and lots of blues and analogous colors. This is a reference from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was sitting in the parking lot of a gas station after a ski trip with my kids' church youth group, and I snapped this picture. I love the warm bushes and almost tumbleweed type plants. Of course, that's very Southwest. It married with the coolness of that blue and the coolness in the snow. This is a 9x12 piece of UArt, and I'm using my graphite mechanical pencil. I like to use a mechanical pencil because I don't have to worry about sharpening my pencil over and over since this paper is sanded. And I'm just sketching in the movement of those clouds right now, and I've sketched in some of where the foliage is in the foreground. Now you'll notice that I am changing things up a little bit. One of the main things I love to do is change my references to more pleasing compositions. And in this case, I'm going to bring some of that foliage down towards me, and I'm going to remove the footprints in the snow. I've also made some of the trees on the horizon line seem a little bit larger than they are in the reference photo. Now you've seen me use acrylic ink before. I'm using my fabric and burlap technique right here with some burnt umber and burnt sienna acrylic ink. I've put a little bit of it in a pie plate. I'm using the benefits of that burlap and fabric to help me create the little stalks and branches and twigs that are in this reference photo. Now you'll notice that there's lots of little threads that are sticking to the paper with this burlap. Burlap has lots of little fibers in it. That is something I don't usually worry about because once it's dry, I can brush those fibers off. If that bothers you, then I would suggest that you use more like cotton canvas. You can use very loose weave fabric. After it dries, brush that paper, loosen those fibers, and knock them off the paper. I'm just tapping and touching. I'm using my backer board, the white foam core, which I really love to use because I can test the strength of my inks that I use. I'm using it to test the dilution, patting this, dragging it down across the paper to help me begin to form some shadow shapes. I'm going to extend the shadow shapes. Now remember, I'm using this reference as an idea. I am not copying this reference. This reference sparks an imagination and brings out my artistic license, and I'm really honing in on the areas that I like about the reference photo. So along the same warm theme, I'm going to put in some warm Richardson. This is kind of a peachy coral color, and I'm going to push that in with some pipe foam just to tone the paper a little bit, so whenever I start applying my blue snow and my brighter snow, then it will have that really warm color almost as a vibration against it. I'm also putting in the same color in the sky. This is something I do a lot. If I'm going to have a painting that I want a lot of color harmony, I want to put the same color in the sky as I put in the land. And that's going to help me to create that color harmony, that color cohesion that we all want in our pieces. Now I'm going to add touches of very, very dark neutral green Terry Ludwigs to the shadows of these little scrubby sages and bushes and juniper trees. I am going to push that in a little bit right here with some more pipe foam. This piece is going to be a lot more defined with my mark making. That's something that is so fun about snow, is you can really make those thick, juicy, chunky pastel marks that are so compelling. I like to put down those heavy marks, and then sometimes I soften them. I'm putting in purples here, my shadows and my snow to be mostly analogous with that contrast of that warm browns and goldens that the underpainting created with those peaches as well. I love to start pulling in these beautiful blues of the shadows. Snow, there's just something about it that is so magical to paint. I don't think we often get to use as much blue and purple and those gorgeous tones in some of the other months, except of course in water or sky, and so it's really fun to use it on the land. Right now I am looking at the reference photo, but I'm beginning to veer off into that artistic license realm that I like to live in. A lot of times I will take the underpainting. I'll take the underpainting as my inspiration to see what was created when I was using my fabric and my inks. Sometimes those shapes are bigger than I had planned or a different shape. And so I can't be too married to my reference photo because I have to be able to respond to my underpainting. These colors that I'm using right now are my shadow colors. I'm wanting there to be a lot of shadow. I'm making the shadows in the snow more dynamic and bigger than they are in the photo reference. I'm also using various colors here. I'm using turquoises, I'm using purples, I'm using cobalts, I'm using ultramarines next to each other. This is going to create a lot of interest in my shadow colors. Also starting to bring up some color into my sky. I want the colors to be similar. So I'm going to be using a lot of the same colors, maybe a little different value up in the sky than is down on the land. I love to use negative painting and carving techniques, especially whenever I use my acrylic inks with the fabric, because I love all those little thready stalks and stems that are created. And so I can use those as part of the texture, and instead of having to work so hard to create texture with my tiny little pastels or thick chunky pastels, I can carve in and around those shapes that I already have, which makes my job easier and helps the painting have a more loose painterly style. I'm also adding some tiny little flicks and very light touches of some hues that mirror and match the underpainting colors that I used with the inks. I'm also bringing in some dark shadows, or darker. I guess this isn't a really very dark value. This is a gray new pastel. Also kind of experimenting with some of the creamier or whiter cloud color. These are similar colors to what I've been using in the foreground snow, which I'm not quite finished with yet. I am creating in this piece almost a vignette effect. You'll notice there's a lot on the edges that I haven't put any pastel on at all. I love this look, and I probably would end up cropping this piece in to be more of an 8x10, but I love not to necessarily put pastel or underpainting on the very edges because I really want people to circle in, hone in into my focal points. hope you enjoyed watching that painting come alive. I certainly love painting them for you. Thank you so much for being here and for watching this. If you like to help support this channel, keep these free videos coming, please consider visiting my Patreon page. The link is right here. I have several levels of support and I appreciate every single one of you. I can't wait to keep teaching you about the beauty of pastel. See you later.